Hello and welcome to Unacademy IAS, a one-stop destination for all the English medium civil services aspirants. Welcome to a session where we are going to cover the different types of GDP. Now, before I start, here is a very important announcement, and this is especially for those who have started preparing for the Civil Services Exams 2027. Starting 5th to 9th May 2026, we will be conducting the Unacademy Platinum Week. During these particular days, I'll be taking the chapters from the class 12th NCERT book. We will have the coverage chapter wise, and after the coverage of the chapters on that specific day is done, I will be giving you 5 MCQs for the practice, and we will discuss the solution for the MCQs during the live session. Any questions you have, any doubts you have regarding the Indian economy, I'll address all of your doubts during this particular live session itself. All you need to do is use the link provided in the description to register for the sessions. Alternatively, you can also use this particular QR code to scan, register for the sessions. See you all starting 5th May at 5 p.m. Let me start the session now. First and foremost, what does the term GDP mean? GDP stands for Gross Domestic Product. The gross domestic product is the sum total of the market prices of all the final goods and services which are produced in an economy for a specific time period. What is the meaning of all these terms? Let me unpack. First and foremost, market prices. What does it actually mean? What is the price that is paid by the consumer such as you and me when you purchase or when I purchase these goods and services in the market? And when we purchase, it is specifically for consumption purposes. That is the reason the term final goods and services is used. Let me elaborate a bit more on this. When we purchase, let's say, milk, it is for preparing tea, preparing some sweets, and consuming by ourselves or consuming in the household. We are not purchasing milk to produce something and sell it later in the market. So, when we purchase the goods or services for our consumption, not for selling further in the market, these are called as the final goods and services. So, what is the market price of all the final goods and services which are produced within the Indian territory for, let's say, a quarter? Quarter essentially means a time period of 3 months, or for a full financial year. And what do I mean by a full financial year here? One, we have a calendar year. Calendar year will start from 1st January, will end on 31st December. Whereas the financial year that we use will start from the 1st of April and will end on 31st March. It will start on the 1st of April this year and will end on 31st March of next year. So when you calculate the market price of all the final goods and services which are produced, let's say, for a full financial year or in a full financial year, this is called as gross domestic product. In India, the gross domestic product is calculated by Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation, and specifically under the MOSPI, we have the National Statistics Office, which is responsible for calculation as well as the publication of the gross domestic product. Now, what are the different types of gross domestic product? We have nominal versus real GDP. I'll start using the GDP to represent gross domestic product. What is the basic difference between a nominal as well as the real GDP? Let me ask you a very simple question first. You purchased, let's say, a particular product last year, and basically you must have paid, hypothetically, assume 100 rupees. Now you will go to the market, you want to purchase the same product. Don't you think from the last 1 year or from the last year to this year, the price of the product would have increased from 100 rupees to 110? And please understand, this is applicable for most of the goods and services that we produce. So from 1 year to the next year, the market price of the products will keep on increasing. And when you measure this change in the market price for basket of products, basket means a group or a collection. So when you measure the change in the market price for the basket of products like this is called as inflation. So come back to the discussion now. Nominal and real GDP. Nominal GDP means you simply take the market prices which are prevailing, which are prevalent, which are applicable in the current financial year. So you take the market price and you calculate GDP, that is called as nominal GDP. And another name for the nominal GDP is GDP at current market prices. GDP at current market prices. Now, what do I mean by real GDP? Real GDP essentially is the type of the GDP that you calculate using the base year prices. In simple terms, whenever you remove the impact of the inflation from your GDP calculation, I repeat, whenever you remove the impact of inflation from your GDP calculation, that is called as real GDP, or else it is also referred to as GDP at constant market prices. GDP at constant market prices. So this is the fundamental difference between nominal GDP and real GDP. Next one, potential GDP versus actual GDP. Potential GDP simply means when you use the resources most efficiently. Whatever resources are available, you will use all the resources. And when you use all the labor that is available, that is whenever there is full employment in the market. In simple terms, anybody who is searching for the job will get the job, right? Anybody who is seeking for a job is given a job. So whenever resources, all the resources available are utilized, whenever there's a full employment, and when there is no, right, let's say there is no very high impact of inflation on the economy, the GDP that you achieve is called as potential GDP. In a nutshell, the maximum GDP that you can achieve, because you are utilizing all the resources that are available, the maximum GDP that you are able to achieve that is possible for you, that is called as a potential GDP. Whereas in reality, if the resources are available, that doesn't mean you will be able to use all the resources efficiently. If labor is available, that doesn't mean everybody who is seeking a job will get a job. For example, in recent times, because of what is happening in the external market, because of what is happening in West Asia, because of what has happened, let's say, during the pandemic, don't you think people were searching jobs, but they were not able to get the jobs? So in reality, what is actually achieved? One is the potential, the maximum GDP that you can achieve. But the other one is the actual GDP. That is how much you are able to achieve right now, or let's say in this particular financial year. That is called as actual GDP. Next, GDP at nominal exchange rate, GDP at purchasing power parity. What's the basic idea? GDP, whenever it is published in the international market, for example, World Bank, etc., they will publish GDP numbers. They will publish the GDP in terms of dollars. We calculate in India in terms of rupees, but it is published in terms of dollars. So what they do is, whatever is produced and measured in rupees will be converted in dollars. So if you take the exchange rate that is there today in the market, that is for every dollar, how much is the rupees in the forex market. If you take the current exchange rate and use that current exchange rate to calculate GDP, that is called as GDP at nominal exchange rate. But there is also one more GDP, GDP at purchasing power parity. What is this idea for purchasing power parity? You take a basket of, right, let's say certain products. What is the payment that you do? How many rupees that you pay in India to purchase the basket? And how many dollars will the USA consumer pay to get the same basket? Let's say hypothetically, in India you pay 100 rupees, and in the USA they pay $2 to purchase the same basket or the similar basket. Now you compare these two currencies and get an exchange rate. 100 rupee is equal to $2 now will become 50 rupee is equal to $1. So rather than using whatever is the exchange rate in the market, you are simply using this exchange rate, which is called as exchange rate, right, for purchasing power parity. So when you use this exchange rate and calculate GDP, that is called as GDP at purchasing power parity. Next, there is also concept of a green GDP. What is this green GDP? Whenever you are producing goods and services, you are going to consume natural resources. And because let's say there is a pollution, you're going to spend money in order to control pollution, the impact of the pollution. When you calculate GDP, you're not measuring all of these particular things. You're not finding out, right? Or you're not including the money that you have spent to reduce the emissions. You're not including the cost of resources that you have consumed, etc. But when you calculate green GDP, essentially it's an accounting mechanism. Of course, in India, we don't have official green GDP concept or calculations. But essentially, this is gross domestic product minus the cost of the resources that you have consumed and right the cost of expenditure, that is the expenditure that you have incurred in order to reduce the impact of emission. So when you account for these two components from the gross domestic product, that is called as green GDP. And one more, just because we are discussing GDP, one more concept associated with the current affairs, walking GDP. What's the basic idea for walking GDP? It's not type of a calculation per se, but a celebrity by the name of Taylor Swift is known as walking GDP. The reason behind calling her as a walking GDP is she has held multiple concerts. And when these concerts are conducted, lot of people will travel from outside the cities into these cities. The demand for transportation increases. The demand for right hotels, etc., food, etc., increases. It will kickstart or it will contribute to a very great increase in the kind of goods and services which are consumed during these concert days. That's the reason she is being referred to as walking GDP. So these are the different types of gross domestic products that you are supposed to be aware of. Now based on this, here is an MCQ. Consider the following statements. GDP is published by NSO functioning under MOSPI. India's GDP at nominal exchange rate is greater than GDP at purchasing power parity. Which of the two statements is or are correct? Do let me know the answer to this question in the comment section. And just a reminder, from 5th to 9th of May, every day at 5 p.m., I'll be taking live sessions covering the chapters from 12th class macroeconomics book on the Platinum platform. Those interested in enrolling, here is the QR code. Scan and enroll and see you all on 5th at 5 p.m. That's it from my side. Take care. Have a great day. If you're yet to subscribe to the Unacademy IAS YouTube channel, kindly do it right now. Thank you. Have a great day.